What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV back here for yet another Tottenham update. I didn't think we would have to come back again today after the update we gave you earlier, but here we are. Quite a lot has been breaking, a lot of news doing the rounds in the last few hours regarding Tottenham Hotspur. Another day in paradise, as it usually is around Tottenham Hotspur. And look, we brought you the news earlier on that Thomas Frank has been in talks with Tottenham Hotspur. Well, all the reliable journalists have come out and spoken about Ange Postecoglou in the last couple of hours. And Alistair Gold, we'll start off with him. He says that Levy is still believed to be weighing up the future of Ange as he faces a crunch decision over the direction of the club. There are some fears within Tottenham of a dressing room backlash if Postecoglou was to be sacked. Some within Tottenham did not understand Postecoglou's decision to prioritise the Europa League once he felt injury-ravaged Spurs could neither achieve anything in the Premier League nor get relegated, which I find peculiar, to be honest. Like, if you can't achieve anything in the league or get relegated, like, why not just prioritise the Europa League? Just doesn't make sense to me. But Paul O'Keefe says that he's told no official communication has been made to the coaching staff at Tottenham, but Daniel Levy has made a decision. The decision, what the decision is debatable. All he knows is that Levy has not communicated it to the club, nor to Ange or anyone else yet. So people saying that they know he's 100% sacked isn't accurate. Told he's back tomorrow, and his mind has been made up. How long till we hear? We don't know. Ben Jacobs says before the final, Daniel Levy spoke to some of the senior players to discuss how they felt about Ange. Reports of Ange Postecoglou being sacked are premature. Clarity of Ange Postecoglou's future is expected next week. Spurs already have had conversations with De Zerbi a couple of months ago, which is interesting that he had this chat with the senior players prior to the final. I find that a bit peculiar.
Prior to the final?
Yeah.
I just think, look, we know that this manager, his future has been very much under scrutiny for a long time. Yeah, I guess why have it prior to the final? Why not wait till after the final and see where everything lies instead of kind of putting it in doubt in the players' minds about having a discussion about a manager just before a big final? Yeah, I kind of agree with that, to be fair.
Sasha Tavaleri says that Tottenham decided to sack Ange Postecoglou and Thomas Frank leading the race to substitute him. Marco Silva also on the list. Wait and see. Tom Barkley says Tottenham are speaking to other managers about replacing Ange Postecoglou. It is more likely a change in the dugout is made, with a decision expected this week, but it's not a foregone conclusion yet. There has been some interest from Tottenham in Simone Inzaghi of Inter Milan, Thomas Frank and Marco Silva. And just now, Fabrizio Romano says that Tottenham to make a decision on Ange Postecoglou in the next hours. Spurs are considering their options. I mean, look, once all this stuff starts coming out, it usually just goes one way, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's obviously 100%. And I think once you start talking to other managers, once you start sounding out, you kind of implies you're kind of just saying, you've lost the trust in the manager. You're looking to make a change. You're kind of saying what's out there. How can we improve on this manager essentially? And once you start doing that you've already lost faith in the manager. And I think it's always best at that point. You could land on like what Man United did. Obviously, they were talking to Tuchel. He rejected him. He rejected Man United, and then they're looking at other options. And I guess they felt no one was really more qualified than Ten Hag to take them forward. But as soon as the first sign of trouble, essentially that second season, that doubt came flooding back. And then, even though he signed a contract in that summer, the doubt which led them to talk to other managers in the summer meant that at the first sign of trouble, he was gone. Obviously, you're running the risk of doing the same thing here in this situation with Tottenham, where you could go for a manager or whatever, and again, you could decide that maybe Ange is the best guy, but as soon as that first sign of trouble comes, the pressure is going to be so great, and also maybe you're feeling maybe you should have made a change. But that's obviously think about it negatively. Maybe it could go the opposite way. Obviously, if he wins that trophy and you decide to back him, doesn't mean it has to go wrong. Maybe it won't go wrong, but obviously you're running that risk. but you're also running the risk of changing the harmony in the team, changing the good feeling that has been built. You're making a change, and all of a sudden, you've done something for 2 years, and you've got what's called the players are on side of the manager. There's a very good kind of feeling in the dressing room, and then if you bring a new manager, it changes the dynamic. He's going to have to figure out what the squad needs, what he thinks the squad needs for his kind of style of football. And there's a bit of you're going to have to give that new manager time all again, and that brings other problems. And the issue we've got really is that if you bring a new manager, either way, there's not going to be patience. I feel like with this fan base right now, either way next season, because you keep Ange, given our league form, there's not going to be a lot of patience if things start to go wrong quite quickly. But if you back him and you bring in a new guy, there's also not going to be that much patience, because there'll be a lot of fans saying, well, why did you sack Ange? And things are going wrong. And, why did we make that change in the summer when there was a good feeling? And all of a sudden, a new manager has to figure things out all over again. So we're in a bit of a pickle here, I think, it's fair to say. In terms of Frank, I like him. I think in terms of if we are going to make the change, which looks like we are, I think he's a good option. And I think in terms of how he is, his man management style, what he built at Brentford was very impressive. So I think obviously he's a good option, I think, if we are to get rid of Ange. But I just feel like personally, it's a risk. And it's a risk. I know it's a risk keeping Ange as well, but would I rather risk it on the manager who just won a European trophy, or risk it on a new guy? And I know he's done a great job at Brentford. Don't get me wrong. Fair play to him. Like what he's done at Brentford, keep them mid-table. It's very, he's very reminiscent of like what Eddie Howe did at Bournemouth. Very reminiscent of that. And he obviously, Eddie Howe went on to do great things. But there's also managers that have done similar to Frank in terms of getting a small club to mid-table. And it's not like just because they've done that means they're ready for the big job. Now, I don't know if Frank's in that caliber. Maybe he's better than some of the managers. But you think of some managers, Deitch got Burnley mid-table. Tony Pulis saying, Tony Pulis got Stoke quite consistently mid-table. Chris Wilder got Sheffield United into mid-table. Like, it's not impossible. I'm not saying that those managers didn't do a good job, whatever. I'm just saying didn't necessarily mean those guys were ready for the big jobs. And I don't know if Frank is different to that. I'm hoping he is. And I think there are suggestions that he is. But there's also, you could have given suggestions to those other managers why they are as well. So I just think it's a risk. I'm not saying Frank is another Pulis or Deitch or whatever. I don't think he is. I think from what I've seen, he looks like a level above those managers. I'm just saying, just because you've taken a small club into the mid-table of the Premier League doesn't necessarily qualify you for a big job.
Yeah, but I don't think they're just looking at, just him taking Brentford to the mid-table. They're looking at his tactical nous, his man management ability. There's all the package that it comes with. And, those other managers, I know you're not saying he's exactly the same, but those other managers kind of got their club to mid-table, then went back down, right? Frank has kind of brought them into the Premier League and made them a staple in the Premier League on the budget that they've had as well, which is, is an extremely impressive job. And I think much more impressive than what you talk about with the other managers, in my opinion.
Well, I don't know. Pulis had them. I mean, he got sacked, but he had them pretty. Like, he kept them in the Premier League for a long time.
Yeah,
a long time.
He did keep
like what, 8-9 years? I think he had
but
before he got sacked.
Pulis also did it with a certain brand of football, and he had his way of playing. Not really tactical flexibility. You know what I mean? Like Frank does it with tactical flexibility, playing different ways, different styles to suit the opposition. And the way he's done it, I think, has been brilliant. And I think he's done it in a probably different way than any of these managers.
Maybe. I mean, I thought Chris Wilder was also quite tactically flexible when he was in the Premier League. Obviously, he obviously went completely wrong the next season. I know that. I'm just saying, I agree with you. I do agree with you. I think Frank, from the evidence, potentially he's a lot better than those other managers I mentioned. I'm just saying he's not the only manager who've ever done what he's doing at Brentford. Obviously, Eddie Howe's a good example of a manager who was ready for the step up. He kept Bournemouth in the Premier League, I don't know how long before he left, but he kept them up. He kept them in mid-table for a bit, and then obviously got a big job with Newcastle. And obviously, they looked at him and saw how he was playing football at Bournemouth and thought,
"Didn't he take them back down?" How?
I don't think did he.
I think he took them back down, didn't he?
Trying to remember, didn't he just? I can't remember now. He was there for a while. Did he take him back down again?
Oh, he
Anyone that
took
can't
them
remember?
back down, and then Scott Parker brought them up.
Maybe he did. I can't remember exactly. You might have taken them back down, but anyway, he did keep them in the Premier League for a while, playing good football, and they looked at that and thought he could replicate that. And obviously, in this day and age, Burnley got relegated with Company, and Bayern looked at that and thought, doesn't matter, he got relegated. They said they just looked at the football and thought that could be something we could do. We could use our club. So, look, I think Frank's a good option. And I think he's a good option if we are to part ways with Andrew, which it looks like it. He's looking like the front runner. We're now hearing good links, right? Strong links to Frank, which we weren't hearing really with any other manager. It looks like we've actually been talking to him. So once that happens, I'm going to get behind him, and but I'm not. But right now, it's a bit of it tastes bitter. Bit of taste in my mouth, to be honest, how we're dealing with it. But
it is a big shame because everything that he's given us in terms of, I know the league form was absolutely dreadful and a sackable offence on its own, but to deliver us that trophy, that parade down the high road, he's gonna go out as a legend, whatever you want to say. He's delivered a European trophy to this football club, and that I do feel like with all these links coming out, I think we're going to hear something tomorrow. Levy's back from holiday tomorrow. I think Ange might be back tomorrow or whatever. I don't know about Ange, but I feel like the news is going to hit tomorrow.
But it's also a very big stylistic shift again, which it's going to be a bit of an issue, I think, in terms of what Frank wants, who he feels like will either buy into his way of playing or fits his way of playing in the current squad. I haven't done a deep dive into him. We'll do that over the coming weeks if he is the manager, and we'll have to piece out who we think in the current squad fits what he can do and all that kind of stuff. But it's also right now it's hard to put your finger on when we're assessing that, because we don't really know necessarily how he's going to play at Tottenham, because if he is going to be Tottenham manager, he's going to have to play very differently to how he played at Brentford. That's the truth. He's going to have to play a different style, a different. I was looking some of the stats over the season for Brentford. They average, I think, 45. They're one of the lowest possessions teams in the league, one of the highest long ball teams in the league. They attempt some of the lowest amounts of dribbles in the league, and that's basically the opposite of what we do, essentially. Complete. So either he has a bit of a stylistic shift, or we're going to have to make a lot of changes in our squad to kind of fit what he wants to do. It's going to be.
I don't know.
I think so.
I think the players are suited to it, to be honest. Our best performances this season came when we had low possession, and on a bit of a transitional based game. So I don't see that being too much of an issue. What I see being the biggest issue here is what Ali Gold's saying about a potential dressing room backlash if Ange was sacked, because we all know how much the squad have started to love him, Romero's future tied to Ange and all that. This is the biggest problem for me.
We'll get into that in a second. I think it is an issue, the tactics, because I don't necessarily. I feel like at Brentford, a lot of the games, especially against high up or whatever, most teams who play Brentford, they tried. They don't necessarily try to have more possession. Teams try and beat them. Teams try and go at them. I think with Tottenham, a lot of the times teams would sit deep and teams would try and frustrate Spurs because they know the talent we have. And I think we have to see if when we do have games and we have a lot of possession, how under Frank, how he's going to basically deal with that. Because I think there's going to be a lot of games, maybe not even by his choice, where we are going to have a lot more possession. And he is going to maybe have to adapt to that compared to how it was at Brentford. In terms of the dressing room, I think yes and no in terms of it's a problem. I think initially there's going to be a lot of probably anger or players not happy, and I think the reason why a lot of people talk about this the players being on side is because we've seen at Tottenham it's not necessarily the easiest thing to get players on side. How many managers have lost the dressing room on all these kind of things? Cultivating a dressing room where all the players believe in a manager and really respect him and will quote unquote run through a brick wall for him, as Ange said. That doesn't happen overnight, does it? That's something you have to build with the managers. So the fact that we've got that now, and also not only that, you have the whole. He said he was going to win a trophy, and he did it in his second season, and the players kept believing in that. So you've cultivated that, and then you're ripping that out. However, what I will say is, I do think Frank is the kind of guy that can get a lot of these players back on side quite quickly with how he is. And what I've seen from him, what I've seen from him with how he is with players, like when I compare his body language and how he speaks to someone like Nuno, I think it's very, very different. He's a lot more personable. He seems like a guy who has very good emotional skills, very good man management skills. That's what he looks like to me. So it will probably take a bit of time. Obviously, he has to get to know all the players, but I think he's the type of manager who I think can cultivate a good dressing room atmosphere, in my opinion. However, when it comes to people like Romero and I don't know who else, but definitely would put Romero in that camp. Someone who obviously loved Ange because for whatever reason that he had a great relationship with him, and maybe he saw a winner with Ange that he was, and obviously that was a big thing. And obviously they won that trophy. I don't think Frank is the kind of appointment that signals ambition. Someone like him to say, we're going to be competing for big trophies regularly if you stay here, even though we just got back in the Champions League.
I might not have a choice anyway, whether to stay or go. Like if a team don't stump up the cash, he ain't going to be going. That's the reality.
He might not, but that might make him want to leave rather than be happy to stay, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
And that's a problem. And whether that is a problem within the dressing room, if we have someone like that who, maybe kicking up a fuss if he does want to leave, and if he is forced to stay, that could definitely become an issue. But look, I do think as much as the players want him to stay, I don't think it will be a surprise to them if Ange does get sacked. I don't think I'll be shocked by it. I'm sure they're aware of all the rumours and everything, and I don't think come beginning of the season, I don't think that'll be an issue. But it might be an issue right now when it happens and the players are not happy with the decision. But once Frank gets his foot in the door and speaks to the players, I think I just trust seeing what Frank.
It might not even be Frank. It might not even be Frank. We don't even know.
No, but if we're talking right now, it looks like it is. But yeah, you're right. It might not be him. But I think and if it's a different manager, I have to see who it is, and then I can make my own assessment. But I think if it is Frank, I think he's the kind of guy who can get the players on side. I do believe that he's that kind of personality. But
well, that's the situation with Ange. I think we both kind of feel the same. The writing does seem to be on the wall with Ange Postecoglou, and more information to come. Romano says in the coming hours, but I think tomorrow or Tuesday we'll get the final decision on that. Let's talk about players now. There's been an interesting update regarding Matisse Tell from Ben Jacobs, who was speaking on Last Word on Spurs today, and he says Matisse Tell option will become an obligation if all the clauses are met. And he says he believes that almost all of the clauses have been met. Some of the clauses are appearances, goal output, and Champions League football. Option to buy of £55 million, 60 million, including the loan fee, which is a bit peculiar with all the noise that we've heard about Spurs going back in and renegotiating the fee. Maybe because all the clauses haven't been met, that gives Spurs entitlement to go back and renegotiate the fee and stuff. It's clear to see that Tell wants to stay at Spurs. There's been noise about Spurs like being very impressed with him behind closed doors on the training ground and everything like that. What do you reckon about this? Do you reckon there's something in this, like his obligation has been met?
I don't think so. If I was to make a prediction, I don't think, because we hear a lot about these clauses, but then we don't really know about specifics. I remember with Decky, from what we heard, it was like, I think the clause was if we get Champions League football and he plays over half the games or something, then the clause would have been met. But then it didn't really get met for some reason, even though we did that, and then it ended up rumbling on for another year, and we did end up signing him permanently. But I don't think it was because any clause got met. If I remember rightly, I think we just decided to sign him, even though from what we heard, the clause had been met. It was a bit a bit confusing. But in terms of Tell, I think we probably would have heard from by now potentially if that clause had been met and we were forced to pay all that money, which would be definitely a problem, I'd say, because I don't think we want it. Clearly, we don't want to pay all that money. And,
but
and
then on the flip side, we would have heard if he's going back to Bayern because
not necessarily.
we announced at the end of the loan spell that Timo Werner is going back. So why wouldn't we?
We have no intention. We have no intention of keeping him.
Yeah,
but hell, we might do.
Yeah, I guess they're trying to bring him in then.
Yeah, probably. Or they're discussing. They haven't decided. Or they're discussing it. Or they have decided. Yes, they are going to keep him. One of those two. They definitely haven't decided not to keep him. Essentially, is what you can gather from that. That's all you can really gather. So, I do think they want to really renegotiate that clause. I think they do want to get it down. In terms of what Ben Jacobs is saying, he's saying, what did he say? The majority of the clauses have been met.
Yeah.
So not all of them. So that means it wouldn't be. Then that means it wouldn't.
He's talking about appearances, goal output in Champions League football, and I highly doubt the goal output would have been 2 or 3 goals.
He got 3, didn't he? 2 in the league, 1 in the FA Cup. Yeah, I doubt after 3 goals you trigger a 50 million transfer. Doesn't seem like a smart thing to do. I think he played 18 games since he signed. I mean, that might have been something.
It could have been like 15 games, Champions League football, and like 5 to 10 goals or something.
Yeah, I can't imagine from what we've seen that the clauses have been met. But look, we haven't seen the contract. I don't know what the clauses are, but I highly doubt it. So I don't think he's met any clause. I don't think we're going to be forced to spend 50 million. I think we do want him, but we want to renegotiate that fee. I think is what I think is probably going on right now.
Again, all will be revealed in the coming days, I reckon, on Matisse Tell. But another one from Ben Jacobs says that Tottenham have made an offer for Angel Gomez. Spurs have grown in confidence in the last 48 hours to sign Gomez on a free transfer. I mean, this one's right up the Levy playbook. Apparently, from what I heard from another report, that it was Tottenham and West Ham, the 2 Premier League teams that are in for him. And I guess if you have that choice, you are only going one place, aren't you?
Yeah, I think. Look, we spoke a lot about Angel Gomez, didn't we? And I think he's a good player, and I like him. And look, again, now if Andrew's leaving, it changes the landscape, doesn't it? In terms of who we want, what the fit is. It would be weird to sign a player before, obviously, we get a manager, but how we've done that before, haven't we? I think didn't Manor sign before we had a manager, or he was like basically agreed before we had a manager.
We love our club signings, mate.
So you can't rule it out, and especially he's a free transfer, England international, and 24 years old. So I'm sure Levy's completely licking his lips. He's a midfielder that I think is good, but again, it's like, is he necessarily better than what we have right now? I don't know.
I don't know much. I don't know. The only time I've seen him play is when he played for England, and I thought he was absolutely brilliant that day.
Yeah.
I've seen Bissouma on the one-off game have brilliant games as well, so it's hard to really judge it.
And if we're apparently, a lot of the reports saying we want a good experienced midfielder. Obviously, he does have a Champions League experience, doesn't he? Because he played for Lille last year in the Champions League. He had a good campaign. I think he got sent off in one game, I remember, though. But yeah, I think he did. I think Lille had a good campaign. So look, I think if you ask me, or you ask majority of Tottenham fans, Angel Gomez is going to be your big centre midfield signing. I don't think too many people are going to be happy with that. But if it's him plus a big one, okay, then that's fine. But then I don't know how we fit all these guys in, because we've got Bergvall, Sarr, Bentancur, you've got Kulusevski now in the middle.
We ain't signing another midfielder unless 2 or 3 go.
That's the thing, because I think it's fair. Basuma's probably leaving. I think as well, if we're a changing manager, which looks certain, I don't think we're going to sign anyone in this window. I don't think this upcoming window, in my opinion.
It's big. That's a big call, mate.
That's what I think. I don't think in this next window. This.
Oh, you mean the early one? Yeah. Okay,
yeah. We're not going to sign anyone. I think we're gonna wait for the new manager to review the squad. I think there's a good chance even before pre-season we don't sign anyone.
Next up, Tyler Dibling. Ben Jacobs says that Tottenham feel they are leading the race for Tyler Dibling, but are currently undecided. Spurs expect to pay between 45 to 50 million for the player. Tottenham feel Dibling wants to join Tottenham. However, Tottenham are not sure if they want to bid, considering he hasn't played much in the second half of the season. I find that peculiar as well, because if you're so convinced of a player of that age, it shouldn't matter if you've played as much as you thought they were going to play second half.
Yeah, 100%. Like you saw what at 18, what a talent this guy is. Look, I'm not saying we have to sign him. I'm just saying his playing time, second half of the season, when Southampton have been, terrible and they got relegated very early. It's hard. I wouldn't want them to judge him based on that little period. But I guess on the flip side, when you're only going off this season, then you have to basically take all information you can get because you're only basing it off a season, aren't you? And the fact that you didn't get in the team late on, does that come into your thinking when you were basically judging this player based on a few games earlier in the season? So maybe they're thinking, does it balance out? But I don't think that's the way you should be going about it. You should be looking at the data. You should be looking at scouting him. You should be looking at how he plays. And if you think this guy has what it takes to be a star here or really grow into a star, then you really decided, okay, this guy is a serious talent. We need him here. Then you make that decision. You don't then start having doubts because Southampton, who were down with 2 months left of the season, for one reason or another, didn't play him as much. I think that's a silly way to go about it.
It's all rubbish because I'm just looking at his stats now in terms of starts and minutes played and all that. He only started being on the bench a little bit more, like from April onwards. And even then, like he still had a few starts in there. So it's a bit rubbish, that.
Yeah. Well.
Next up, we're going to talk about Ben Davies. Now, this is an interesting one. Information that we've had here is that Ben Davies is very likely to be moving to AC Milan in a deal which could see Fikayo Tomori move in the opposite direction. Roma were interested as well, but it looks like a move to Milan is now increasingly possible for Ben Davies with Fikayo Tomori coming to Spurs. Gary Jacobs also says that Tottenham do retain an interest in Tomori. They want a left-sided centre-back this summer. Mark Guehi does not want to join Tottenham, and Jared Branthwaite is another defender that they are considering. But first of all, unbelievable for Ben Davies to get a move like that to AC Milan off the back of, 10, 11 years at Tottenham, however long it's been.
Yeah.
Tomori coming in the other direction, I'm not sure about it, mate.
Yeah, in terms of Davies going, I mean, Davies going to Milan and Dyer going to Munich, who would have, and Trippier going to Atletico. A lot of our players seem to get good, like a lot of these players who we cast off seem to be getting good moves to big clubs. So maybe that's something to say about how we judge them. But if he does make that move, obviously brilliant move for him. And they just appointed Allegri. So, I mean, in theory, he should fit in what Allegri wants to do there and the type of player he is. A lot of people I've seen on social media saying, how can we swap a player if he's a free transfer? But as you noted yesterday, or earlier today, that he wasn't on the list of players, was he? That we said we released. So clearly, that's not a foregone conclusion. Clearly, something's going on there. Well, you've heard earlier that the contract has been extended. So
I've been consistent in saying that for weeks now.
Well, what did you say?
I've been consistent in saying that for like half the season.
Yeah, so I mean, that's how we can do it. If the contract's been extended with a view of moving him on, which it looks like that's what it looks like at the moment, then that's why we are able to do this kind of deal. On the face of it, if you just said, like, forget all the other context surrounding it, if you just said we're going to swap Davies for Tomori, I mean, it doesn't sound like a bad deal. But if you add in the context that Romero's now, if Ange leaves, is likely to leave. We now have 4 centre-backs if Tomori comes in with Dragoshin, Danso, Van der Ven, Tomori. And are we really going to then drop 50 million or whatever it's going to take to replace Romero on another centre-back if we have those 4 already? I just feel like then the club will look at that and think that those are our centre-backs going forward. And that worries me because I look at those 4 centre-backs and think, I don't know if that's enough, really, quality.
It depends, Sim. It very much depends on who the manager is, what system they want to play. Let's say we want to play a 3 at the back system. That's not enough centre-backs to play that system. So you're going to need to bring someone else in, surely.
100%, but I don't know. Like, it depends what Frank wants to do because he's quite flexible. He's played 3 at the back before. He's played 4 at the back before. This season, most of it's been 4 at the back, but I've seen seasons where most of it's been 3 at the back. So he's going to have to make that determination. And maybe it's a case of in pre-season, he looks at the squad, and even if we do this deal, maybe he thinks, okay, I've looked at the squad, we want to do 3 at the back. That's what's best for this team, and we need another centre back. But then on the flip side, if he looks at the squad and thinks actually it's more suited to 4-2-3-1 or whatever, then I don't think we're going to sign another one. To be honest,
it is a massive downgrade, man. It is a massive downgrade if you're talking about Davis and Romero going out the door and only Tomori coming in. Like, I can't stress how much of a disgrace that would be if that was to happen. It really would be.
Agreed, unless they think one of Phillips or Vuskovic is ready to come in next season. But
even if they're ready, they're not ready to that level.
Yeah, I mean, that's from what we can see right now. But maybe on pre-season they'll surprise a few people. Who knows? But I agree. I will be very worried if those are our 4 centre-backs going into next season. 100%. Albeit, maybe we'll see a better Dragoshin if Frank's appointed.
No,
maybe
you definitely will do.
Maybe you'll see better from other players. So maybe we're harshly judging some of the centre backs in terms of how good they actually are. Maybe Frank can get better out of them, but
we're not because we're talking about a Romero level defender here.
Correct.
So even if they perform better than what we've seen last season or what we've seen previously, they're not going to be a Romero level defender. We're talking about a World Cup winner, top mentality. We saw what it was like in the final. We saw what it was like in Copa America finals. Like, however good these guys are, they're not at that level.
Correct. And on that basis, on that basis, I would like to just sell Davis and not get Tomori and just go someone else, go someone higher quality. Obviously, the news that Guehi doesn't want to join us is a bit of a blow, and that's not good at all because he would have been, the first option in replacement Romero for someone of similar quality. Even though I think he's still a bit of a downgrade, but I think he's, someone who you can put in the same conversation as him. Branthwaite, if obviously he would be a great option if we can get him. But again, he's going to cost big money, 60, 70 plus. So whether we're willing to put that much money on him while also having Tomori and having Danso and Dragoshin, all these guys, I don't know if we are going to do that, to be honest.
Depends how much we can get for Romero. If we get top whack for Romero, there's no reason why we shouldn't be spending top whack on a Branthwaite.
No, I agree with you. I just think we'll more likely spend that money elsewhere if we do that. If we get a Tomori in, I'm just worried that they're thinking, "Oh, we get Tomori in this deal. Tomori, he's a Serie A winner. He's a good defender, and that's good enough to go forward next season." And I don't think it is, and I'm worried that the club might think it is. But yeah, well, we'll have to see.
Yeah, a lot of people mentioning Vuskovic in the comments. There's an update on him as well. As Ben Jacobs says that Spurs were delighted with his loan spell at Westerlo for his development. HSV have made an inquiry for Vuskovic, but Spurs have said they want to wait until later on in the transfer window as they want to take a look at him in pre-season. So I guess that's the best course of action to do.
Yeah, apparently he's a Hamburg fan, it seems. I don't know if you saw... I don't know if you saw... I don't know what... I think Hamburg had that relegation playoff, didn't they? And he was there, and he was celebrating.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he seems to be a fan of them. So maybe that's something that I think. Did they just get promoted? I'm guessing. Yeah, I didn't even see. So they just got promoted. So maybe that could be a good match there. But go get him play some Bundesliga football, top level football. Albeit could be for a team near the bottom of the Bundesliga next season, which isn't great. But maybe that's a good loan. Huh?
Test his defending skills out.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that would be a good option. But as well, I would if we're signing people like Tomori and we're not going to spend big on a centre back, I think it will be stupid not to at least look at him in pre-season and think, can this guy do a job for us this season? Is he good enough yet? Because we might need someone with a really high ceiling potentially who could break into the team. Because I think the guys we have at the moment, I don't know if any of them have world-class potential, but Vuskovic does, I think. Potentially.
Yeah. Next up, we're going to talk about Richarlison. Ben Jacobs says that Richarlison is becoming more open now to the idea of leaving Spurs. Tottenham previously valued at 50 to 55 million. I imagine that will be a lot less this summer.
He's saying that. You're saying that.
I'm saying I imagine it will be a lot less.
You're saying that. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think maybe he feels like he's got that trophy, and he didn't want to leave without some tangible to show he's been a success here, kind of thing. We know that it hasn't worked out, but he's kind of not wanted to leave, has he? Saudi moves, all these different things. He's wanted to stay. He feels like he's got stuff to achieve here, and and maybe he feels like, look, I've achieved something. I won the trophy, and now I can. And now, if I kind of not wanted, I can leave my head held high, having won that trophy, and go somewhere where I'm going to be more important, or I feel more like loved, I guess. And as much as I think the fans love him, and he's a bit of a cult hero, and in a sense, we know he's not reliable. We know he can't stay on the pitch, and that's just something that we've contended with for the past 3 years, and we just need to move on from that situation. So glad he's more open to it, and I think it's a good time this summer to part ways, I think.
Yeah, I think somewhere between 30 and 40 million is probably the way, probably the price point he's going to go for. And like we keep saying, I think Everton is just the perfect match, but we'll see what happens on that one. On Yves Bissouma, he says that there is concrete chance that Bissouma leaves Tottenham, and there is interest from Saudi and a few Turkish teams. Wow,
Saudi and Turkish teams. So he's already Turkey level, is he?
it's mad, isn't it? Like, do you reckon like maybe his end of season form in the Europa League might have swayed a few clubs, but it doesn't seem that way at the moment?
Well, I think wait to see the lay of the land. I think that's right now, but I think as the summer rolls on, I reckon I wouldn't be surprised if you get some good teams coming. Not good teams like top teams, but teams in top leagues, I think, coming in for him. I don't think that story's over. I think Ligue 1, there'll definitely be teams looking at him. And even the Premier League, I wouldn't be surprised.
On Rodrigo Bentancur, Ben Jacobs says that Monaco and Atletico Madrid have both inquired Rodrigo Bentancur. Contract has not been signed yet.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about this contract, as you say, and nothing's happened. So maybe he's waiting in terms of the manager as well. Maybe because we know. I think he likes Ange as well. Maybe he's waiting to see who the manager is going to be for next season. And look, maybe if he's not happy with the direction, maybe he will think, I'm not going to sign and I'll just leave, and we'll have to take money for him. So I think his future is not certain now. Atletico would be a brilliant move, but it looks like they might be going for Johnny Cardozo. Maybe they'll go for both, but obviously Johnny seems to be one that they're seriously going for right now. Monaco is an interesting one because they had a pretty good season last season, and they were very good in the Champions League as well, especially. But yeah, I don't know if how much money they have. Maybe they've got quite a bit. I'm not 100% sure. How much?
He's got a year left, so he's not going to go for that much.
Like 20 million, similar to Højbjerg, I guess.
I mean, we signed him for 15 million, and I think he could go for something similar, 15 to 20 million.
Well, Højbjerg went for 20 million euros.
Yeah.
So you'd like to think we'd get a bit more than that, but yeah, probably not.
I don't know if we will, but with Bentancur, I mean, if him and Bissouma was to leave, then Angel Gomez makes a bit more sense.
100%. Maybe both will leave, and maybe we're thinking we just want to go in a different direction completely and just get rid of these guys. And then all of a sudden Angel Gomez plus another, then you've got room. But I would think it'd be a shame to lose Bentancur. I think he's a quality player, and I think Atletico, if they're getting the version that's getting back to his best, and we've seen elements of that, they've been getting a phenomenal player. But it'd be a shame if he got back to his best and we weren't the club to take advantage of it. But then again, he might never get there, so it's a risk.
And last but not least, Mikey Moore has held positive talks with Tottenham over a new deal. The deal is at an advanced stage, and he's absolutely loving life right now at the football club. So it'll be interesting to see what we do with Mikey. I mean, we both spoke about it last week, saying maybe a loan is the best option for him, but you never know, they might keep him around next season as well.
Yeah, I think any new manager, as I say, if it's a new manager, they're going to want to take a look at him 100% and see how good is he right now at this level. Can I use him? I think from what I've seen in this last season, I do think he could probably benefit from a loan just to play men's football regularly, week by week, instead of this season where it's like a few minutes here, a few minutes there. Well, look, at 17, you can't really ask for too much more than that. Don't get me wrong, but I think he did go large swaths of the season not playing when he was fit, I think near the end. So I think he'll probably want to be playing regularly, even though again he is young. But I think he's getting to the stage where we've seen in the Europa League, and he can definitely play at men's football level. But Premier League level, it's maybe a bit of a stretch right now to be playing regularly at that level. So maybe a loan deal could work.
But also, in terms of players like that, you never know. Like if he spends all summer like proper working on his physique and stuff, comes back a lot stronger in pre-season, you never know.
I completely agree. I'm just saying from what we've seen.
Yeah,
Yeah, but you never know, 100%. Maybe in the summer he bulks up and comes
he's definitely got the quality.
I remember it happened with Bale, didn't it? He was a skinny kind of teenager and looked like he was going to be sold to Birmingham. Then like one summer, he kind of just transformed his body, became a lot more muscular. And then all of a sudden, his players were bouncing off him and people described him like a rugby player, you know, and that happened very quickly.
Yeah, exactly. So look, an extensive update for you guys today. That is all we have. I'm sure it's going to go in overdrive tomorrow. I'm fully expecting there's going to be a lot of news breaking tomorrow. So we'll see you all then. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on.